here's a little thought about the future of brands and institutions. And I'd like to start with a little journey of time traveling. As a matter of fact, there are 5 different presentations of mine that start with the exact same journey. And that's the journey of Christopher Colombo. But I think it has so many perspectives that you can go in 5 different directions after this. The journey starts with the idea of making food non-perishable, so food durable. And Christopher Colombo's journey was to shortcut the path between Europe and herbs. So we went on the ship to bring herbs faster to Europe because they were so expensive, because they were hard to bring in, but actually they had a strong disadvantage in making food non-perishable, and that was changing the flavor. So what we use it today was actually a disadvantage in the beginning. People realized that making food cold has the same effect, so they just had these silos, built these silos where they put ice from the winter into the silo, so could place food and store food inside, and the food didn't change the flavor and didn't perish that fast as well. Great solution, actually lasted throughout the whole year, and you can still find some of these silos in ancient China. One guy said, well, not every place on earth has winter, so we need to ship ice to places who don't have that opportunity just to harvest ice in the winter. And he started shipping ice over the water. And that, of course, was very inefficient. So they started producing ice industrially. And industrial ice faced a lot of headwind. Only natural ice is good ice, and industrial ice is bad ice. But of course, it survived because it made its journey from these silos or these locations where you brought your food to cool it down and make it non-perishable into your living room or into your kitchen, where you put the ice in blocks into this little box. And that was what still is today used as the refrigerator. And this is one journey. And the interesting part is when you look at this journey, you always have to ask yourself, what are the things that shine out here? Why am I giving you this? And I'm looking into the question today, how many of these survived more than one generation? And the answer is 0. And we have to ask ourselves, why is this happening? And when we ask ourselves, why this is happening, we ask ourselves, what do they all have in common? And what they all have in common is each of their activity produces information that needs to be stored, it needs to be captured, it needs to find its place for future decisions. And that didn't happen because most of these organizations, they just wanted to get better in what they're already good at. And this is happening right now when we look into the automotive industry. 111 car brands, 110 of them are mechanics. They only want to produce better cars. But that one company that they want to be is not a mechanic car company, it's actually a data company. So these organizations have this immune system against anything that could mean change or different. And they're not data companies, right? This is not a data company. And this is the most famous case. And whenever I talk about exponential organizations, which I do a lot, as some of you might have already realized, Kodak is part of it because it's so crystal clear from an economics standpoint what went wrong with Kodak. They said we print memories on paper, and when you look into the production of paper of photos of memories to be captured, we would have to deforest the whole world. This is I'm shortcutting here. We would have to deforest the whole world to provide paper for all of these photos that we take, and of course it's not happening. So we're not print memories on paper. The Nokia guy, in his last talk, Stephen Elop said, we didn't do anything wrong, but somehow we lost. Well, they did do something wrong. And what they did wrong was they were looking into market research, but market research doesn't tell you what inspires a market. Market research just tells you what you should have delivered yesterday. So the iPhone is the contrary, right? No one was waiting for the iPhone. It was by the time a device that replaced the Nokia phones, people like the mobile phones, the PDA, people like their iPads and whatever they were called, and the MP3 players. And that was turned into one device. That was something that customer research would never have told you. So when we look into the exponential organization, that's what is in a nutshell. We all have activity. This activity can contain this, you might know it's actually called pirate metrics: activation, retention, referral, acquisition, revenue. Some sort of activity, and all of this produces information, and that information is data that informs future decisions. That's basically the one slider of an exponential organization. So what does this all mean with design, and what does it all mean with the things that we have to design to remain in business, to be a successful organization? What does it all mean with the experiences that we're looking at out there that people are having and that are created for people? And we have physical and digital experiences today. And that's kind of the part where business models lie behind. And of course, when we look into those, we have to a moment that's before and we have the moment that's after and the during. And most of these business models, they drop somewhere in the beginning of the during. But when you combine a business model with a data model, you see that these three belong together. And these three can bring completely new answers to new business channels. And the data that's produced with everything that you're doing is a resource for your future businesses. So what you have to do is you have to acquire that information. What would I like to know about people and how can I get this information? And then you have to structure it. You have to figure out which of this information is relevant for my business. Big data is a bit of an economical disappointment. So big data is not the answer. We're looking for smart data. We're looking for that information that's relevant. And if we have enough of relevant information, but not big data, we can actually synthesize the information already today. So we can generate large sets of data with high quality, low sets of data that are relevant and deliver right answers, which is relevant in the AI processes that companies are looking at today. And then we just design what's going to happen in the future. It's not reading the future. It's not having a feeling of what's going or might happen. It's just self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Moore, when he coined Moore's law, so every 18 months the price performance of computers will double. He didn't say it's a future prediction. He said it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, because with a computer we can calculate how to produce a computer that's twice as fast and half as expensive. And with the new one, we do the same. And with the new one, we do the same. And then we have a computer that goes 8 times faster, and it's a fraction of the price, just because the new device supports us with moving on at a double speed. So every information with information data sets, it's pretty much the same. So we're talking about, and that's a journey that we see a lot. We're talking about the transformation from product to service, but then back to products. And we see this, for example, with Amazon, right? Amazon disrupted the book industry to turn into an online business. And with the online business that they understood as a vertical, they've sliced every part of it into a data set from warehouses, where they understood the product of a warehouse is cubatours. So it's not about putting articles in a certain place. It's about understanding that an article might be 21 cubic centimeters. So we just have to figure out where we have 21 cubic centimeters. Because the only thing we need to know with stock is where did we put it, so we can take it back from where we put it. It doesn't have to be in the same place all of the time. So that's what they did. And also they understood, as a data company, how long does it take people to read a book? So they know that certain books are read in 3 days, so certain books are read in one go. That's relevant information when they go back into brick and mortar. When you go to an Amazon bookstore, and now we've been there, you've seen this shelf, the page turners, there's a whole shelf with books that have been read in 3 days or less. This is information they have because they're a data company. They turned from a product to service and back to a product. And that's, of course, a smart product. So when you wonder why Amazon went back to brick and mortar, just go in one of their stores and you will understand right away. I'm sure now we'll be able to confirm that because we've been there together. So what I'm talking about is that we need to understand that data plus intelligence delivers better product, services, and experiences. And this is what we have to look for. Technology doesn't matter. Technology is irrelevant. So we shouldn't follow technology or try to follow technology, because it's growing at exponential pace anyway. So it's so hard to understand what's going on. So you don't have to try to understand what's going on with technology. You have to understand what you want to do with it, what you have to do out there. And then you figure out the technology is probably already available. And if not, you can just develop it. So we're talking about the bigger picture. Maybe that's I don't know if you heard of the wolves in Yellowstone Park. Do you know the case of the wolves in Yellowstone Park? Anyone heard of that case before? The problem with this bigger picture view is, I'm saying bigger picture here, not because if you go back, you see everything, you see the same thing from different perspectives. I'm saying bigger picture because if you go back, you see everything that's related to what you're looking at. Because if one parameter changes, everything else changes as well. And this is why I put the wolf from Yellowstone in here. So the wolves were the bad animals who killed other animals. So they removed all the wolves from Yellowstone. And that disrupted the whole ecosystem from Yellowstone Park. And in the 60s, they understood that wolves are important. So they should bring the wolves back. So they changed just one parameter at the Yellowstone National Park, and that was bringing the wolves back into the ecosystem. The interesting part that happened here is that deers, they're eating away everything that grows. So whenever there's a little plant coming, the deers would come there and eat it away. So they started eating away all these plants and nothing grew big. And that also heated up the rivers. But with the wolves coming back into the scenery, the deers can't be down at the river because they're easy prey for the wolves if they're at the river. So they had to go back to the hills to make sure that they have this view of being safe and not being eaten by the wolves. But as they left the rivers, these little plants started growing again to trees. And as they were growing back to trees and bushes, they dropped shadow to the river. But as they dropped shadow to the river, that cooled down the river. And as the river got cooled down, certain fishes came back to living there because they didn't like the warm water. And as the certain fishes came back there because they liked the cold water, birds who've been at the Yellow Park for decades came back to the Yellowstone Park because they were eating these fishes. And this goes on. And just by changing the parameter wolf, 60 species re-inhabited Yellowstone National Park. And that's a beautiful case, and you can actually look it up probably in a way more accurate way that I've just shared with you. How if you change one parameter, everything else is changes as well. And that's for me a really crucial insight, because when we talk about autonomous cars, we shouldn't talk about autonomous cars. We should also talk about, I don't know, the people who bring the stop signs to the streets, because we don't need stop signs anymore. We should talk about the conversation from the driver and the pedestrian, because there is no driver situation anymore. So there is no facial body language conversation with the pedestrian. It is safe, you can walk now. This is not happening. There are so many side effects that we disregard, that unintended consequences of innovation are a huge, huge opportunity for businesses. So let me share some with you. The shoemaker is one. I'm not sure. I think now we've also been at Autodesk, right? So at the Autodesk gallery, you see this 3D printed Under Armour shoe. And the interesting part with the 3D printed shoe is that you think that you will get your food scanned at the shoe store and they will 3D print your shoe. But this is not going to happen, as we're all going to have 3D printers at our homes, just as we have inkjet printers at home. So we're going to 3D print a shoe at our home, because the printer will cost, I don't know, $60, and the filament might be more expensive than the printer actually. But we can 3D print everything we want, and if we don't need it anymore, we can shred it back to raw material and print something else with it, because this is going to be this circular economy that we're going to have at our homes. For Under Armour, this means that they're not producing shoes anymore. They're providing an operating system where everyone can design shoes. And if I like Serge, because Serge is a designer, if I like his shoes, I'm going to buy his download file for $1 and he gets 70 cents and Under Armour gets 30 cents of it. And on that big scale, this is becoming a completely new business model for Under Armour, but it's not going to be shoes, because the problem with shoes is not the shoe and not the production, but the shipping. Right? You just have to look at all these kinds of elements, all these links of the chain of our systems, and they're lame because there's so much where the product is not, like when you look at shipping, I think shipping and packaging is probably half of the value that you pay for when you buy a product. And no one benefits from it other than the shipping company. So I will have the opportunity to take advantage of the ecosystem that Under Armour has prepared. We call it an operating system, and the operating system creates space for market spaces. Like storage, we just created the Under Armour shoe that I download for $1 and 3D print for my own food, because with the new iPhone, I can actually take a 3D scan of my food already. I don't even have to go somewhere. Let's stay with additive manufacturing. I consult a company in the aviation business. They're actually, I don't know if I shared that with any one of you. I think I did in the Moonshot Heights camp. They produce spare parts for planes. And with the 3D print, and then it's heavy machinery, right? You need these models where you can have, like, every machine can bring one spare part, and you need all these tools, and it's very expensive and heavy. And now it comes 3D printing into space. And they're happy and excited about it because they save so much money, because they need 10% of the raw material. And then they need to save so much money because it's also lighter, so shipping is cheaper. So they can sell the same product for less money than before and still make more money. Sounds tempting, right? Sounds great. That sounds like an amazing opportunity. But what they didn't look at is that when we think of the advantage of 3D printing, the 3D printer will be in the plane. And while the plane is flying, the plane will 3D print its own spare part. And that production company will just send a cut file to the plane because they just have to have sensors all over the plane to understand the condition of the plane, and whatever spare part needs to be replaced, they just start printing it during the flight. And while passengers get off and new ones get on the plane, spare parts are replaced, and there's no maintenance downtime because that's lost money for airlines. And you have to look at the whole picture and not take one innovation out of their context of things that are going to change. As I said before, it's about thinking in operating systems. Which brings company into this transformation where they have crisis teams and strategy teams fighting because one trying to react and build resilience, how they can recover, and others are actually looking 5 years ahead of technology and said, okay, we're not talking about crisis, we're talking about a transformation. Who do we want to be in 5 years from today, and not are we still around? And so many organizations have this fear, like, how can we survive? And how can we survive is always a bad question. You shouldn't ask yourself, how can I survive? You should ask yourself, who do I want to be in 2 years? Who do I want to be in 6 months? Who do I want to be in 5 years? And that's a whole different question when it comes to strategic decisions for an organization. All right, let's look into these trends that I mentioned earlier. One of them, seamless omnichannel experiences. What does this mean? First one is dashboards. It's one of the master school book elements from the Exponential organization that you have dashboards. Gap opens for their employees 1 hour before they open to the customers, and the employees get through the intercom updates on the success of the last day. The revenue Gap has made last year, the reach in the store itself, Gap overall. They constantly have this exchange of information, very transparent. They know what they have on stock. They know what product portfolio is there or in another store, how many visitors are coming in and out. This is all available information for everyone. 1E too much for delivery. You want to have it delivered home. You want to have it delivered front of door. You want to have it delivered to your neighbor. You want to be inspired at the shop. You want to buy it home. Delivery also is part of the seamless experiences. How does the shop floor change with the future of retail? As I said before, 3D printed shoe means that no one's going to a Foot Locker to buy their shoes because they 3D print their shoes at home. So what's the purpose of Foot Locker? Might it be data mining, like we've seen at Beta, the store where you interact with the product, and while you interact with the product as a customer, you've been observed by cameras and sensors and people asking you. And what they do is basically they sell that information that they gather and not make money by selling the product to you. Or Apple, where you have, I think, 40,000 today at Apple events every year, where it's just about bringing people to the store to have a good time, not to selling the stuff. Whenever you go to Apple, you can browse around and roam around between the tables and look at stuff, or you just take part of one of their free events that they have, at least one every day. That's turns the Apple store into a community market. Or, as I mentioned before, Amazon Books, they are a data company, so they know so much about you that they offer, they don't have to stack the whole store with different books just to hope that the one you're looking for is there as well. They know already what you're looking for, to just need the few books that are relevant for that region. Or Amazon Go, where you go shopping and you don't check out. All these kinds of things are changing in the shop floor. How does this affect shop planning? How does this affect inventory? These are important questions to ask when you're in retail. As I said, the digital experience also support the concept try from home. Online and offline is not two worlds anymore. I'm just, I don't have it here. I could show you later. I'm just tinkering around with the Oculus Quest, the VR class from Facebook. And there is an environment called Altspace. And in Altspace, you can recreate what we know as a conference venue, for example. So I'm just getting built the whole conference venue. So the next time, and this is seriously going to happen before Christmas, I'm going to invite for an onboarding. So everyone who has a VR class can be there. And if you don't have a VR class, you can't even be there. And future trainings and webinars and workshops, and even these tours are going to be in this virtual space. and you will look around and feel like, hey, we're in the same room. You can walk towards each other. You can go on the terrace and have a view on the city skyline, or play some basketball, or have a little chat. And this is all happening. This is not going to happen. This is happening. It's like as we're speaking. And actually today in 2 hours, I'm having a call with the guy who's building that space for me. And you know what? I'm paying 1,500 euro for this. This is not even a fortune that you invest into your virtual environment. And it will look real. You look around and go like, wow, this is amazing. You can up, look down with no lagging, no latency. It doesn't feel like being somewhere else anymore. It soaks you in. So what does this mean for the real offline world when there is this online world that becomes so tangible and physical? And then, of course, the big question, and I just had a great call with Nestle and the CEO of Magenta, where we spoke, among other things, the NBU, the next billion users. Where do they come from? Right? If you want to think big, we have the Moonshot Pirates in the room. The next billion users are the next billion people that will have access to the internet. They will not look at interfaces like they will not adapt to what we've created. They will create their own infrastructure. They will create their own interfaces, because the keyboard, so if you're on your desktop or a computer right now, just look at the keyboard, the Q, the W, the E, R, T, Y, or Z next to each other. This is not intuitive. We just think it makes sense because we've been doing this from the typing machine that our parents and grandparents have been using. That doesn't mean it makes sense. We're just used to it. They're not used to it. They have this advantage of coming with a backpack of 0 stones in it. So what does this mean when the next billion users are not adapting to what we have created for them, or before they came online, but they will actually change everything. And we have to make sure that we understand what's going on there. Cooperation, collective reorganization. And please halt me if I'm too fast. We're pretty safe with time. If there's something you'd like to talk about, it's totally okay to interrupt me. You just have to say something because I can't see you. I'm just talking to my screen here. All right. What does this mean? Cooperation and collective reorganization. And I'm not talking about cooperation in the project. I'm talking about cooperation between organizations and mindsets. So what brings organizations together where it might not be intuitive? It might not be that they are just on the same product chain or value chain of a customer. So it could be shared values, for example. It should be capacity as a service. It should be the gig economy. The gig economy is already the second, I think it's bigger. I think the informal economy is still the biggest, but probably a lot of informal economy transforms to gig economy right now. I think it's the second or maybe the third biggest economy in the world. So this is huge. Open source innovation happening all over. I'm just, I don't know if Johan has joined in the meantime. I've just prepared a Google file because I'm using it for myself and I want to hear other people feedback on using it as well. A form where I ask myself every day on this journey of being who I want, becoming who I want to be. Am I also as productive I'd like to be? Do I do the things that I plan to do, like reading a book, working out, spending some time with my dog, with my family, with my friends, meditating, planning, all these kinds of things that we hear from the Tony Robbins of this world. How are we implementing this? And from this gap of hearing what makes sense and doing what we do, which is always, there's always like this chasm between. We're not like when you go to the grocery store and you plan bread, butter, eggs, I don't know what, and then you go home with a cart like this. This is how we live our lives. We have these huge plans and then the reality looks completely different. So if you want to understand how we can learn from each other, we have to think in open source. So what I did, and I can share that with you if you're interested, what I did was to create a Google form, Google Doc. And in this Google Sheet, I've just added tasks and times, how much time I would allocate to this task. And I'm challenging myself every day. It's like from 0 to 100%. How am I doing this? Did I take 30 minutes on a reading? Did I go on a walk? Did I do this? And then I realized my best day since I've been doing this, I started this 10 days ago, my best day is 63%. Even though I'm trying to be conscious about what I'm doing when I get up in the morning until I go to bed in the evening, I'm only 60% away from my planning. 60%, 40% away. So I just hit 60%, although I feel like it. So I thought that makes sense. And I posted it and everyone could use it and give me feedback on how this makes sense for you guys as well. So I'm going to post this in the chat later. I'm not one to make business with this. I want to open source it because that means that I don't have to do R&D. Everyone who thinks it would be a good idea to monitor yourself and use this very raw resolution prototype and starts using it for themselves, can let me know how to make it better, or maybe even start making it better so everyone else can also use the better version. That's how we should be innovative. Hyperlocalization, right? In this trend of there's only one Amazon in the world, there's only one Facebook in the world, there's only one Google in the world, there's only one YouTube in the world, there's probably only going to be 2 car companies in the world, 211 or 3. We want back the grocery store around the corner. We want to have this tangible experience of going to the farmer. I'm here in the countryside. Get honey from the farmer. Who of you went to a farmer getting honey in the last 6 months? Nice. One. I only see one, but I don't see all of you. This is a great feeling. So that's also a trend kind of against this global seamlessness, that we want to have these human aspects, and that's in that. And then we have the hot topics: sustainability, cybersecurity, and digital exclusion. We have to work hard, and this is what I'm doing. We have to work hard on soft skills. People over profit. We have to ask ourselves constantly, is it what we're offering? Is this still relevant? Huge problem for the big companies, right? They have this. When we met Simon Lockett, he's into this, like how organizations are having a strategy and this project that they want to execute, and then they're dull. They don't see what's happening, just execute. But when they've executed, the truth of the day where they define the project is just not true anymore. That's why when we talk about growth hacking, and I don't know if you're familiar with the term, growth hacking is basically the art of experiment. So you run experiments for 14 days, 2 weeks, and not 3 months. Because if you start an experiment, if you have the results of an experiment after 3 months, you can toss it, because nothing of day one is still relevant, because it has changed so fast. So experiments run for 2 weeks. And if you're interested in growth hacking, I can go into this more specific. Sustainability is actually, I have some double letter issues with my keyboard. So that's why it's model and not model. Sorry for that. The plastic islands are actually not a problem if you solve it, but they're a huge asset, because when you find technology that turns the plastic islands in the Pacific into raw plastic, and you don't accept anymore that only 2% of plastic can be recyclable, but you want to have 99% or 100% recyclable of the plastic, and you go there and you find machines and you invent machines that turn the plastic island into raw material. You don't have to ship the problem somewhere else, but you turn the problem into a resource, and you ship the raw plastic to plastic companies. And plastic isn't a bad thing. We just should stop producing virgin plastic. So having plastic makes sense, but not anymore. We have enough already. So if you get this, and if you solve this, this is a gazillion-dollar business. And then we talk about this digital excluded, and I'm not actually only talking about seniors, children, and unbanked citizens. I'm actually also talking about those who might be digital natives, but by decision don't want to be, right? Why do we have to be online? Why do we have to be screened and connected? I'm sitting here, I'm surrounded by 1, 2, 3, 4 screens. That's my choice, but it's not everyone's choice. How do you deal with those who don't want that? Definitely something that's important to also consider, not just go blind. As I said many times, don't be too much into this is technology and want to do something with technology. Always go into what is it that we solve for people? What is it? How can we make life better for people? What problem can we do? Can we identify if we solve it, they would actually have a better life? And then digital vulnerability, blackout, cyber attacks, customer data intelligence, huge trend, very important. The future work is, there's something wrong with the future work, because it's not really future anymore. It's work that's happening already. We talk about remote work, new processes, office space, co-working space. I think co-working spaces have a huge opportunity for a future if they go away from hosting cheap desks to being a place where people can spar. And the argument of low price desks and flexibility, the price argument is always a dead end road, and it's always been a dead end road. And it proves, like what's happening this year, it proves again that this is a dead end road. If your argument is come to my place because it's cheaper than renting whole office and you can move out next month and not have to sign for a year, you go for a price argument, and the price argument will not keep you in the business for long term. You have to find a different argument. And for me, for co-working spaces, a different argument is make it attractive for leaders who need to spar. Aristotelic, our mutual friends, as Kagi talking about the thinking bodies. They should meet at co-working spaces. They should have an environment where they can go and think about the future of their companies, talking with and to like-minded people. When we talk about the future of work, of course, we talk a lot about how machines are replacing humans. And there's a very clear list of things where machines should replace humans. And that's repetitive tasks, dangerous tasks, inefficient tasks, or dull tasks. Right? When you talk about the checkout cashier at Walgreens and you're sad for their jobs, are really sad for their jobs? Should they really do that job? I mean, would you do that job? No one should do that job, right? This should be done by machines. They should be trained, mentally trained, to understand that they can do whatever they want, but they shouldn't spend their lifetime doing this beep, beep, beep. This is not a job, and this shouldn't be a job. This is something machines should definitely do, and not humans. When I talk about the exos, I talk about collaboration versus coordination, which basically means that you should be able to design intrinsic motivation so people understand that I'm part of the whole narrative. I'm part of the contribution that makes my company inspire a market, which basically also means that if the company doesn't inspire me anymore, I'm at the wrong place. Does your company inspire you? If not, why is that so? How do you inspire? How do you contribute to that inspiration? How do you contribute to being attractive for people? Yeah, I think it was at Metal. It's one of these conferences where people come, and one of them spoke about public speaking. And the number one question you always get with public speaking is, what's the big advice that you can give for a good talk? And it's annoying because there's not one thing that makes a talk a good talk, but actually I heard a really good answer to that question. And that's, you have to think about your audience, what's in it for them. It's their show. And if you don't have an answer to what's in it for them, you shouldn't go on a stage. And this is kind of also a way of understanding when you are an organization or when you're an employee for an organization. You have to ask always, what am I doing for other people? What's in it for them? What's in it for my employees? When I'm an employee, it's like, what's in it for them that I work for them? That creates a momentum of intrinsic motivation to make A, things important, and B, things good. Office space, wellness and productivity. Oops, German. Touchless. Generative design is where artificial intelligence meets design thinking. It's basically design thinking 3.0. I don't know if you're familiar with this. Also big other topic. I'm just touching the surface here. How can I be future fit as an employee? How can I be future fit as a leader? But also, and it's not about well, we talk about physical fitness as well, but it's also spiritual, emotional fitness, but it's the mindset fitness. As I said before, this is the time to invent your own job. This is the future of work. There is no patterns. There is no, we don't know so many, we don't know hardly any of the jobs that are going to exist in 2 years from today. And I think with all the jobs that disappeared, and then as you see the jobs that we're going to have in 3 years, there will be more jobs in 3 years until that time, then until that time before. I hope that wasn't too confusing now. And then the touchless life is the fifth trend. Won't touch this. I'm just watching the clock. I'm good with timing. It's so weird because I'm literally talking to my slide. I don't even see myself on that podium because this is kind of how I pulled this all together. So I see nothing of the energy that I'm creating here. I hope the whole thing makes sense for you. I'm curious to hear back from you. We're almost through.
You're doing good.
Where can I go touch free? Thank you so much. Where can I go touch free? That's so weird when you go to the washroom, the soap, everything is hands free, like everything is touch free, right? You go under this dispenser and it's the soap on your hands, and you go under the faucet and the water goes on, and then you go to the fan and the fan goes on, and after everything being touchless, you leave the bathroom and touch the handle. Things are not thought to the end, but it's going to be touch free. It's going to be a big thing. When we have this social distancing, what does this mean for room design? And then the seamless integration and handover between devices. This is where it all comes together, right? When I'm in the store and I have my phone with me and I go back home, how can I let the phone know, the computer, what I've seen, that I don't have to go browse through the website of that vendor, that company, to actually find or not find what I've seen at the store? How the relationships change. that's kind of a closing thought. The life is a series of events. Like when you go up, the alarm goes on and you stay up, you go to the bathroom, you brush your teeth, you wash your hands, you go to the shower, you dry your body, you get on your clothes. It's like one event after the other. And when you take all these kinds of events as little slices of your life, one after the other, you just have to figure out which one of those would I like to turn into an experience, or which one of those would I like to have turned for me into an experience. This might be like brushing your teeth might not be something worth turning into an experience, but maybe yes, it would be, because it feels like wasted time when you do this 2 minutes per day. Maybe there's something where the smart mirror knows that you're brushing your teeth and it starts sharing the news because you're in passive mode, you can't type in anything or whatever. I don't know. All these kinds of interactions are possible future scenarios of redesigning our day flows. These are all socials for business models. As I said before, customers pay you for gain pleasure or avoid pain. So many typos, I hate this. When we talk about the exponential organization, when we talk about exponential times, we have hit this need. And I can't say this often enough, that it's going to be 2020. We were going to look back at 2020 and say, ha, shit. It's going to be rough for a lot of people and fun for a lot of people. It's just your choice. Because everything will change, and you guys, you are the architect of the change. That's your choice. And that being said, I'm switching myself back to this view. Oops, sorry. This view, and to you guys. 30 minutes. I hope not too fast, but I wanted to make this keep this open for you guys. Tell me what you think about it. Does it make sense for you? Can you relate to this?
I find it a very fantastic bullet point you give to us in a very, very compressed way. And it's opened me a lot of valves in my head.
Okay.
And the toilet example, I think what you said is the toilet can be automated anytime, and also the cleaning your teeth and reading the news is all technology is already there. Nobody's doing it. Yeah, you are the architect. It's fantastic, right?
You're all the architects, no matter how old you are or young.
Yeah,
there's no too young, no too old.
So when you say you are the architect of yourself, I mean, you create your own job. I mean, you make your own profile. So the classical HR will be killed because you tell what to do. So the way Steve Jobs said, we hire the people, they tell us what to do, not we tell them what to do. So it's for me, it's fitting what you say. I don't know what others.
Then the role is, what's the role of HR? Is it empowering? Is it remembering? Right, where vulnerability, uncertainty, this will not disappear. It will not vanish. We will always. Now our grandchildren will stand in front of the mirror and ask themselves, "Am I enough?" Right? These are the things that will not disappear, and we'll always need people to. Mothers. The definition by Simon Alain de Botton. The definition of a mother is should always find good. Whatever you do, should always find it good and support you. Yeah, I can do it. Maybe not my mother, but what else?
Niki, you mentioned that some jobs should be replaced by machines.
Yes.
And I think that if you replace one job, you replace many jobs, if not all. So what are people then doing on Earth?
So again, right, you look into the job as something that you do from Monday to Friday to afford your weekend. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's one thing that you have to get away from, because this doesn't make sense anymore. Okay, what would you do if it wouldn't be for money? Ask yourself that question, then don't do anything else but that anymore, because if you're going to be passionate, going to be good at that, one day people will pay you for it. There is this Marco, you know them. I don't know if Marcus knows them. Martin definitely knows them. The Dreamicon Valley people. For 14 years, they don't have a business model of their life. They're dependent on people supporting them, giving them money, time, or in-kind donation. Sorry, I have to work with my dog here since he's doing something he shouldn't do. They are reputation billionaires. They don't have a lot of money, but they can go wherever they want in the world and will find open doors and full support. That's already a currency that's way higher than money. So taking this definition of job, redefining your perspective on what's my job is not the first thing you have to do, right? Because the concept that you do something that you don't want to do, but it pays your bills, must be outdated. It's stupid. It's wrong. Everything is wrong with it. But only because we've been doing this for 100 years doesn't make it right, right? So that's wrong. That you have to go away from. And then you have to trust. And you have to trust that you find what you're passionate for, and you have to trust that it will support and finance in whatever terms you're living. We own too much. Our concept of, so our life concept is we do things that we have to do for whatever reason, and then reward ourselves. And that concept created financial illiteracy. That's the reason why people are financially illiterate and broke. But if you understand that money equals freedom, and every time you buy something, which is cool, not buying might be smart, but it's never cool. If it's a smart decision, it's not cool, right? I decided not to buy, even though I'd love to buy it. Buying is always sexy, not buying is never sexy. Saving is not sexy. But if you understand that one is gratification, that's sexy, and the other one is freedom, freedom is also sexy. You always have to ask yourself, how much freedom am I willing to spend for the gratification I'm going to buy? Right? And if you go in that mind, you realize, hey, we have way too much. There's so much around us I don't need. It just takes away air to breathe, literally, because it's cubicle. So replace money with freedom, and then do whatever you have to do to acquire freedom, because that's what you need. Right? And money means, because if you have more money, you have higher freedom of choice, but you have to think in freedom first. So when you do what you want to do, you get better in what you're doing, and people will come to you and ask you for help, for advice, for service, for whatever it is, because you're good at that. And they might give money in return. They might give something else in return. It doesn't matter. Also, you might not need so much anymore, because you realize everything that I buy takes away freedom. Everything you own is weight. All these concepts, it's like a pendulum, right? All these concepts, like that the flower power generation, ownership is a burden. You shouldn't own anything. They were going in the street and said, don't own anything. It's bad. It makes your life heavy. Well, what happened? They exactly got what they asked for. They didn't own anything and went bankrupt and disappeared. Some of them understood that I have to live in abundance first to help others living this light-weighted life. So I have to make sure that I'm abundant. I have everything I need. And that might not be money, but it might be, I don't know, space. I need a lot of space. Travel. I need to travel a lot. Everyone has their own things that they need. And then you figure it out, right? So it's not, as I said, it's like the wolf in Yellowstone. They didn't even know that they were going to have 60 species. They didn't drop birds and fish. They came, right? It's the same with the jobs. You change one parameter and 60 other doors will open up. You just have to trust this. We have to get away from this very solid and stubborn thinking concept and model of work and job, because it's just wrong. What I'm doing here, that is open. It's like everyone can participate, and because some support it, I'm financially sustainable, but it's I don't want to attach this to something that I feel like I have to do because it has to pay my bills. I want to do this because I enjoy this session so much. I've consciously decided to do it that way. And there are 10 people here. It's amazing, right? 10 hours. I'm just wasting 10 hours of lifetime, or not wasting, but I'm gifted 10 hours of lifetime. This is amazing. So I don't know if that answers your question, but there's not one answer to this. If there's one answer, it's probably trust.